In this video today, I'm going to be comparing Prismacolors and some cheap Crayolas to see how they compare up. So I already have like a line art sketch I did of my OC Zelaya. She's looking kind of sad, but you know what? I like it right now. So we got line art, and on this side of the picture, I'm going to be doing Prismacolors, and on this side, it'll be Crayola. So I think that every artist knows about Prismacolors, especially if you are a colored pencil artist. You know about Prismacolors. I'd say like Prismacolors are like the Copics of colored pencils. They're like high up on there. I can't really think of any other high-end colored pencil brand. Like they're the go-to colored pencils for most artists. Prismacolors are very high quality colored pencils, and that quality in a sense shows in their price tag. I believe even for like a 12 pack they're like $24. I believe the 72 pack is around $80. If you're a young artist like myself, Prismacolors aren't something that you can afford. I didn't even buy my own Prismacolors. They were a gift from my grandmother from Christmas last year. So despite their quality, that price tag really makes it a barrier for a lot of artists. One thing about Prismacolors other than their price tag is that they're wax based, and this wax base really helps with like blending and making everything smooth. This is definitely the case for me because I like my art to look very cartoony and anime-like and have that smooth, flat quality. That's just something I like to do. I'm pretty sure that Prismacolors are also very, very, very good if you're a realistic artist. And like with the wax base, you don't really have to push much. You don't use a lot of pigment to really get a good, bright, vibrant color. And like it just slides across the paper. It's really pleasant to use. And especially since I am using toned paper, which on a side note really helps with making the Prismacolors pop out even more because I can really push in any of the shadows and pull out any of the brightness and the whites. It really helps with that. So having toned paper, I'm pretty sure really helps. I just got to be transparent about that. I'm not using straight up white paper. I haven't done that for a while. But this paper, it really helps with the Prismacolors. Like everything glides fine. I'm not trying to have to fight the colored pencil to get the color and the look and the effect that I want to. I can really just add a lot of depth and warmth and color to this without having to use a lot. Though I will say that with Prismacolors, since they are wax based, when you're layering and layering and layering, you do feel that waxiness on it, and after a while sometimes you can't blend anymore, or it's very hard to once you get to a certain amount of wax on the paper. But I still find it decently easy to blend and work with Prismacolors. That's the one thing you need to know. And also because they are wax based, that taking photos of it is kind of difficult if you don't have the right lighting, because you can sometimes see the streaks and like where the wax ends and start, and it's not like brush strokes because it's not a brush, but you can see like where the pencils was used on the wax if you don't have like the right lighting. But I usually can edit that out if it's too bad or find some not so bright lighting. But that's something I also have to say. But a pet peeve I do have with Prismacolors is that, at least for my 72 pack that I have, I don't have all of the skin tones that I would like to use. They have a very good color selection, but maybe this is because of the colors that I tend to gravitate towards. I use mostly like warm colors and skin tones and browns, not much of like the blues and greens. I do wish that there were some more skin tones, especially for her, because I had to blend 2 or 3 different colors to get her right base skin tone, because the lightest color, she's very pale, so the lightest beige, it was too yellow, but the lightest pinkish color was still too pink, so I had to blend those two together. It was very easy to blend, but that's just one thing. And also for separate characters, there's not really a tan color. I like one of my characters, they are tanned, so I have to blend a lot of those colors together. And while you can see this here, when you are trying to make darker colors lighter, one thing I do want to say is you should put down the lighter base down first and then kind of lightly go over it with the darker color, because I find that if you do it in the reverse way, it can end up looking kind of grayish, and it doesn't really work that well when you're trying to like make a darker and a lighter color work together at one to make like a color in the medium. I have an issue with that, but it takes some learning to get over with. I do just wish that there was a bit more color selection in regards to skin tones, like mid-tones for skin. Another thing to know about Prismacolors is that occasionally the lead will break while you're sharpening, especially if you dropped it a while ago. Sometimes the lead will be loosened up. It's not really stuck in there. But I haven't really had an issue with it breaking mid-use. But that's all I have to say for Prismacolor. So right here I have finished the Prismacolor half. I really like the way it turned out. The Prismacolors were very easy to blend, and I could get a lot of depth with it. So let's see how Crayola can compare to it. Crayola, I think everybody knows about Crayola. They are like the face of colored pencils for children. Which is not to say that only children use Crayola. There are some fantastic artists who can make Crayola really shine and not make an artwork look like it was made with Crayola. Crayola is a brand heavily associated with school and children because that's when most people used Crayolas was during school, unless you were an artist and used it at home. Crayola is very cheap, it's affordable, it's everywhere. There's no problem getting Crayola. Like, I know for me personally, I still have my Crayola pencils from when I was in middle school when I mostly used Crayola. That's when most of my art was made out of. And even these pencils right there are from my middle school era and my elementary school eras. Crayola is very affordable. Essentially everyone can afford to get it. There's no problem with accessibility for Crayola. But that cheap price tag does come with some major cons in my opinion. You can see right here that I'm having trouble kind of getting her skin tone right. Maybe just because my color pencils are old. I don't know about the new formulas. I haven't tried Crayola in years. But the colors came out pretty dull, and it was very hard to blend any of them together. The only times I could really get a blending to work was if they were similar in shade. Like, you can see like the pink around her eye and the bit of the pinkish in the shadow. Those were the only ones I could kind of blend together. If they weren't somewhat near each other, it was kind of nearly impossible to blend. And because there's such a limited selection in Crayola colored pencil colors, especially if you get like the 12 pack, there was not really a skin tone for her. The closest there was a tan color, but that's still too dark for her, so I couldn't go heavy-handed on it unless I wanted to make her really, really dark, which she's not dark at all. So I was trying to do a technique that I did with the Prismacolors, which was to blend the colors into each other to make one cohesive skin tone, but I had issues doing that. I don't know what base Crayola pencils are made out of, but I definitely know that they aren't wax-based, or at least the good quality type of wax. I could feel the difference between the Prismacolor and the Crayola. The Crayola was much more stiff, like it was kind of like dragging on the paper. It wasn't gliding. And I had a lot of difficulties with the color payout with a lot of the pencils, mostly with the lighter colors, like the white in her hair. I could not for the life of me get it any brighter or more white. Like, I do feel like the lighter colors really struggle with getting any type of pigment out. I was really pushing onto the paper to the point where my hands were kind of hurting. And because I am using on toned paper, you can actually see the white. And you can see how very little pigment I was kind of getting out of it. It's very dull. It's like a grayishy color. I got most color payout out of like the reds in her eye. Those are very easy to get together. They blended decent. I could still feel the difference between them, but it worked much better than the other ones. And another thing is, I didn't have a gray colored pencil for Crayola, so when I was trying to do like the shadowing in her eyes, it was hard to do, and I couldn't really blend it at all to make a grayishy color. It just wasn't working for me. And going back onto her skin, I could not get like a flat color down for it at all. Maybe that's to do with the fact that I didn't have a skin tone close to her, so I wasn't gonna really push into it. But like, if you can see from here, there's a clear difference between her skin from the Prismacolor end and the Crayola end. You can see all the lines and the streaks, and it's not smooth. It's very rough and textured, which is not a look I'm going for her skin. I wanted it to be flat and smooth, but I could not get it. Even when I was trying to blend, I think I used 3 or 4 different colors to get her skin tone to work, and I just couldn't get it to work. But Crayola's cheap, so I have to keep that in mind. Okay, so now that I'm done with both sides, both of the Prismacolor and the Crayola, I'm going to do some final touches on the drawing, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, let's get down to my final thoughts. So remember, on this side, this is Prismacolor, and here is Crayola. Now, there's very much a clear difference between both of them. And I could generally feel the difference when I was doing the Prismacolors versus the Crayola. the Prismacolor side was much easier to blend and it came down much smoother. And I generally do have a bunch more color options because I have the 72 pack. And on the Crayola side, it was very difficult to blend. I didn't have all the colors. Like you can especially see for her skin. Her skin's looking very dull and much darker compared to her actual skin tone. But this just could be because my Crayola pencils, they are pretty old. These are when I was in middle school. And it might also just be because of the paper I'm using. Like you can see I use a toned paper. It's like it's a tone gray, so I might be making it worse. But I found it very difficult to like blend and get any like colors, like anything, because I don't have an exact Prismacolor for her skin, but I was able to blend 2 or 3 colors to get just the perfect skin tone for her. But this, I attempted to do it and it just wasn't working. And one other complaint I do have about Crayola is the fact that the colors are much darker and dull. Like you can see compared to her white, the white in her hair, it's much more vibrant, it's bright. But here I was really having to push down to get it, and it was difficult, especially recording, to push hard down on it because I have the tripod of my phone on the camera, so any little movement it's gonna shake. But I had to really press down just to get this color. And you would think that since I am using a toned paper that white would be much easier to show up, but I had the most difficulty with the white. And one thing I can do say was Crayola, the price tag is much different than Prismacolors. And one thing from Crayola is that you can see like right here, let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so you can see here, I found it much easier to try to blend in colors that were similar together, but if they weren't like in the same value range, like reds on reds, it was just essentially impossible to blend. But now it's this Prismacolor, because yeah, Prismacolors are very expensive. I didn't even buy my own 72 pack. It was a gift from my grandmother from Christmas. And I could just say, like, for artists, you don't have to worry about getting the most expensive equipment. Obviously you should work with what you have. I just do prefer Prismacolors because they are much easier for me to work with. But if you don't have Prismacolors or expensive art supplies, there's no problem. Like you can work with what you have and make amazing artwork with it. Like, you just have to know your art supplies. But if you do want to get Prismacolors, I do say they are worth the investment, but that's what they are, an investment. If you don't have the money to get it, don't worry about it. You can still make artwork without it. So, here we have Prismacolor versus Crayola. Bye guys.